Before we begin, dim the lights, take a slow breath, and step into a world where monsters are not villains, only misunderstood. Now, let's begin. Ember Hollow was the kind of village that feared the dark, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, in locked doors, in barred windows, in stories told to children so they wouldn't wander too far. The forest surrounding the village was ancient, dense, alive. The elders said monsters lived there, horned creatures, shadow beasts, things that watched from between trees. So the villagers built walls, and taught their children not to ask questions, except Eli. Eli asked questions about everything: why the wind sometimes sounded like it was speaking, why the forest never felt angry, only sad, why animals never ran from him, and why, on certain nights, he felt something calling, not with words, but with longing. The whisper came during a storm, rain fell softly against his window, thunder rolled over the hills, and between those sounds, he heard it, a low hum, a presence, lonely. Eli stepped outside before he could think twice. The rain didn't feel cold, the forest didn't feel threatening, it felt like it was waiting. Deeper he walked, until the trees opened into a clearing, and there, standing in the silver rain, was a creature taller than any man, curved obsidian horns, for like drifting smoke, amber eyes glowing softly, not rage, not hunger, but recognition. You hear us. The creature's voice echoed in Eli's mind. Eli swallowed, yes. The creature called itself the Rose, guardian of the northern roots, protector of the mountain's sleeping heart. I am not your enemy, the Rose said gently. Then why do they fear you? Eli asked. The Rose looked toward the distant glow of Ember Hollow, because long ago, something taught them to. Eli felt that answer settle heavy in his chest. Monsters didn't attack the village, they avoided it. They stayed deep in the forest, watching, waiting for what? Eli asked. For him to wake, the Rose replied. Beyond the forest stood Mount Virel, a silent, dormant peak that no one dared climb. Beneath that mountain, the Rose said, sleeps the last dragon. Eli's breath caught. A real dragon? Older than kingdoms. Older than fear. The dragon's name was Virelian. Once, dragons kept balance between human and monster, but when fear poisoned the bond, dragons withdrew, monsters retreated, and something else began to grow in the cracks between them. What grows? Eli whispered. Theros' amber eyes dimmed slightly. Division. The next morning, Eli learned how fragile peace was. A group of hunters had found claw marks near the river. They claimed livestock had gone missing. Torches were lit, weapons sharpened. The elder declared, it's time to push the monsters back for good. Eli felt dread coil in his stomach. They're not attacking us, he insisted, but fear rarely listens. That night, flames entered the forest. The first scream wasn't human, it was the Rose. Not in pain, in warning. Eli ran into the forest as fire licked dry branches. Hunters shouted, trees cracked, then the ground trembled, not from footsteps, from something deeper, a pulse beneath the mountain. The sleeping flame had felt the fire, and it was waking. The flames had not yet reached the heart of the forest, but the damage was done. Smoke curled into the sky like a signal. The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Hunters froze mid-step, birds burst from treetops, even the wind seemed to pull backward. Eli felt it in his chest first, a slow, powerful heartbeat, not his. The Rose lowered himself protectively in front of Eli. It feels the fire, the Rose said. Will it attack the village? Eli asked. No. Theros' amber eyes flickered toward the mountain. It will awaken. The tremor became a roar. Stone cracked high along the face of Mount Virel. A fissure glowed faintly orange. Hunters stumbled back in terror. The elder dropped his torch. The mountain exhaled, not lava, not destruction, but heat, ancient, steady heat, and then, wings, massive, golden, unfolding against the night sky. The dragon did not explode from the mountain, it rose slowly, as if stretching after centuries of stillness. Virelian. The dragon's eyes opened. They were not filled with rage, they were filled with memory. When Virelian's gaze fell upon the village lights in the distance, Eli felt something powerful pass through him, not fire, understanding. A voice filled his mind, vast, resonant, layered with age. Who calls through flame? Eli stepped forward instinctively. I didn't mean to wake you, he whispered. The dragon's eyes narrowed gently. You are not the fire. The rose bowed deeply, guardian of the sky, the balance fractures. Virelian's wings shifted, stirring wind across the trees. I felt it long before the flame. Virelian lowered its massive head toward Eli. Long ago, dragons stood between human and monster. When fear spread, the bond shattered, but the dragon revealed something deeper. There had been a pact. Humans and monsters once protected each other. Monsters guarded the forests. Humans tended the land. Dragons kept balance between them. But something unseen had whispered lies into human ears, twisting caution into hatred. Turning stories into warnings. What whispered? Eli asked quietly. The dragon's voice softened. Something that feeds on division. As the dragon spoke, the sky above the forest darkened unnaturally. Clouds gathered without wind. The temperature dropped sharply. The rose stiffened. It grows bold, the rose muttered. Eli looked toward the horizon, and for a brief moment, he saw it, a distortion in the air, like heat rippling, but darker. It didn't have claws, or horns, or shape. It was absence. It was tension. It was fear given presence. That is not a monster. Eli said. No, Virelian replied. It is what fear becomes. By morning, Ember Hollow was divided. Some villagers claimed the dragon's rise proved monsters were evil. Others had seen the dragon spare them, had seen it not attack. The elder called a gathering. Eli stood before the entire village. They aren't attacking us, he said. They're protecting us. A murmur spread. Protecting us from what? Someone shouted. Before Eli could answer, the sky dimmed. At midday, as if something had swallowed the sun. The shadow stretched across the edge of the forest, and where it passed, arguments grew louder, fear intensified, old grudges resurfaced, brothers shouted, friends accused. The more divided the village became, the darker the shadow grew. Eli felt it pressing against his thoughts, whispering, they will never trust you. Monsters cannot be reasoned with. You are alone. He clenched his fists. No, he whispered back. Virelian spoke gently into Eli's mind. You hear what others cannot. That doesn't make me strong, Eli said. It makes you essential. The rose stepped beside him. Strength is not in claw or flame, the rose said. It is in understanding. Eli realized something. The dragon didn't wake to destroy. It woke because balance was collapsing, and he was meant to bridge it. The shadow lashed forward suddenly, not physically, emotionally. A surge of fear struck the village. Torches reignited, weapons lifted, monsters braced, the forest tensed, the dragon inhaled deeply. Eli stepped between both sides. Stop. His voice cracked, but he didn't step back. If we fight, it grows stronger. The shadow thickened above them, waiting, feeding. Eli closed his eyes, and reached not with words, but with listening. He focused on the fear, the hurt, the misunderstanding, and he spoke calmly. We were never enemies. The sky did not darken, it fractured, like cracked glass spreading across the air above Ember Hollow. The shadow that had once been only a ripple now began to gather itself. It pulled from anger, from suspicion, from whispered doubts. The more the villagers shouted, the thicker it became. Eli felt pressure in his chest. not physical, but emotional. Like the air itself had weight. "It's feeding," the rose growled, the shadow condensed, and then, it dropped, not as smoke, not as flame, but as something with outline, a towering silhouette formed between forest and village. Its body looked like layered mist and broken night. No face. No eyes, yet everyone felt it stare. Virelion's wings opened. "Do not strike in anger," the dragon warned, because the moment hatred met it, it would multiply. The creature did not attack, it whispered, and every whisper sounded like someone you trusted. "To the elder, they think you are weak. To the hunters, the boy betrays you. To the monsters, they will burn you next." Fear moved faster than flame, villagers backed away from Eli, monsters retreated deeper into the trees. The shadow grew taller, Eli covered his ears, but the voice was inside him. "You cannot unite them," it hissed. "They will always fear what is different." Eli's knees nearly buckled, but then he heard something else, not the shadow, the forest, the wind through branches, the steady breathing of the rose beside him, the slow, ancient heartbeat of Virelion, and he realized something. The shadow was loud, but truth was steady. The shadow lunged suddenly toward the village square. Virelion reacted. Golden fire burst from the dragon's mouth, not destructive, not wild, but radiant. The flame did not burn wood, it illuminated. Where the golden fire touched the shadow, the dark form flickered, not wounded, but revealed. Inside it were shapes, memories, scenes of past betrayals, humans driving monsters away, monsters retaliating in fear. Generations of misunderstanding. "It is made of memory," Eli whispered. "Yes," Virelion replied, "and memory untended becomes poison." The shadow screamed, not in pain, but in exposure. It hated light, not because light destroyed it, but because light showed it for what it was. The dragon could have burned it entirely, but Virelion did not continue the flame. Instead, the dragon looked at Eli. "This is not mine to end." The villagers stared, the monsters watched, the shadow trembled between them. Eli's heart pounded. "What do I do?" He asked. "Speak," the rose said softly. Eli stepped forward, toward the shadow, toward the fear, toward the divide. "I hear you," Eli said. The shadow recoiled slightly. "You were born from pain," Eli continued. "You grew because we stopped listening." The whispers intensified. "You cannot erase us." Eli shook his head. "I'm not trying to erase you." Silence rippled outward. "I'm trying to understand you." The shadow shifted, its towering form wavered, because it had never been confronted with compassion, it had only ever been fought, or fed. Eli reached his hand toward the darkness, not to strike, not to banish, but to connect. The moment his fingers touched the mist, he saw everything. The first betrayal, the first burned forest, the first child who was told monsters were evil, the first monster who believed humans hated them. It wasn't one event, it was thousands. Small fractures over time, and Eli understood, the dragon was not the only thing awakening, so was he. A warmth rose in his chest, not fire, not power, but clarity. The boy who spoke to monsters, now spoke to fear itself. "You don't have to grow anymore," he said gently. "You don't have to protect us from each other." The shadow began to thin, because its purpose was dissolving. As the shadow faded into harmless mist, Virelion descended fully into the village square. The dragon folded its wings, lowered its massive head, not as ruler, not as judge, but as witness. Villagers dropped their weapons. Monsters stepped from the trees. For the first time in generations, they stood in the same space without fear. Eli felt different. The forest sounded clearer. The mountain felt closer. Virelion spoke once more. "The dragon does not awaken to destroy. It awakens when balance calls. The rose placed a heavy paw on Eli's shoulder, and sometimes balance awakens through a boy. Eli wasn't chosen because he was powerful, he was chosen because he listened. That night, a new pact was made, no scrolls, no contracts, only promise. Humans would no longer hunt what they did not understand, monsters would no longer hide from what they feared, and the dragon would sleep again, but not in isolation, in trust. Before returning to Mount Virel, Virelion lowered its head to Eli one final time. When fear rises again, the dragon said, "Listen first." Then the dragon ascended, not as legend, but as guardian. Years later, children would tell stories of the night the dragon awakened. Some would exaggerate the fire, others would glorify the shadow, but those who were there knew the truth. The greatest power that night was not flame, was not claws, was not wings. It was a boy who chose to listen, and because he did, monsters were no longer something to fear, they were something to understand. As the dragon disappeared into the clouds and peace returned to Ember Hollow, remember this: sometimes the greatest power isn't fire, it isn't strength, it's the courage to listen. If this story awakens something in you, if you believe monsters aren't always what they seem, then join us. Because here at Pillow Tale Time, we tell the stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Pillow Tale Time, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next awakening. Comment below, would you speak to a monster? Or run from it? Until next time, sleep softly. Dream bravely.